Welcome to The Explainer. So imagine for a second, just wiping away decades of profound heartbreak in a single spectacular night, right? Erasing that kind of entrenched historical disappointment, it doesn't just happen by accident, and it absolutely doesn't happen by luck. It requires a really specific, carefully executed playbook. So today, we're looking at exactly how a monumental sporting moment was engineered. We're going to break down the mechanics of this truly historic victory, framing it as a step-by-step tutorial for overcoming massive odds on the world's biggest stage. Let's get into it.
I want you to really think about this number 40. What does that actually mean in the context of sports? Well, that represents 40 years of waiting. 4 decades of near misses, shattered hopes, and just watching the biggest tournament on Earth from the sidelines. That was the harsh reality for Canada. That is, until this monumental match against Qatar. By really grasping that number, you immediately understand the massive, almost suffocating stakes surrounding this game. The pressure to finally perform was literally absolute.
So, how do we actually execute this? Here is the playbook we'll be following today. First, making World Cup history. Then, Step 1, complete dominance. Step 2, facing adversity. Step 3, building momentum. And finally, what happens next?
Starting off with making World Cup history, the Canadian Masterclass.
To really grasp how they pulled this off, we kind of have to look at their approach as a highly effective tutorial. There are 3 core, actionable steps to this masterclass. Step 1 is dominate the pitch, Step 2 is manage the unforeseen, and Step 3 is capitalize on momentum. This right here is the exact formula that took Canada from a painful 40-year drought to suddenly becoming the single biggest story in international soccer.
Let's look at Step 1, complete dominance and executing the perfect attack.
We're going to shift our focus right onto the pitch during that match against Qatar to see our very first practical example of this playbook in action. And I mean, this brilliantly illustrates exactly what complete dominance looks like. Canada 6, Qatar 0. You really have to remember, Canada had never, literally not once, won a World Cup match before this. To go from 0 historical wins to a 6-0 crushing victory in front of a packed stadium of passionate fans, it's just astounding. This wasn't just a win, this was the flawless execution of Step 1 of our tutorial.
So let's look at the practical examples of Canada's gameplay that thrilled the fans and sent absolute shockwaves through the entire tournament. Right from the opening whistle, they didn't just sit back. They deployed this incredibly confident and aggressive attack. They were applying constant pressure on the Qatari defense, literally creating chances with every single move. But it wasn't just individual brilliance, right? The incredible teamwork was on full display all night, and they capped it all off with elite speed and finishing ability, just putting goal after goal into the back of the net. They didn't just win, they completely overwhelmed their opponent. But any true masterclass in history-making isn't just about the soaring highs. The real test of a team's greatness is what happens when things go wrong.
Which brings us to Step 2, facing adversity and managing the unforeseen.
Because despite the incredible celebration happening in the stands, this historic night was not entirely perfect. During the second half, Canadian midfielder Ismail Kone suffered a truly frightening leg injury. In an instant, the atmosphere in that packed stadium just completely shifted from wild celebration to deep, immediate concern. Medical staff had to rush onto the field. You could see that players from both teams, the coaches, the fans, everyone was visibly worried. It was this sudden, terrifying medical emergency hitting right in the middle of a historic high.
But the crucial point here is how a team handles a devastating moment like that. Canada's coach said it best, stating, "Football is about more than winning. The entire squad is thinking about their injured teammate and hopes to see him recover as quickly as possible." This is a profound practical example of managing the unforeseen. Because the playbook for making history isn't just about on-field tactics, It's about unity, it's about humanity. In the face of that adversity, the team and the coach immediately prioritized human health and solidarity over the historic nature of their win. And supporters around the world joined right in, sending messages of encouragement and praying for Kone's speedy recovery.
Moving on to Step 3, building momentum and looking ahead.
Let's break down the data on what this incredible night actually means for the rest of the World Cup, because the impact is massive across multiple metrics. First up, goal difference. Putting up 6 goals while conceding absolutely none means an impressive improvement, and that is a vital metric for advancing in a tournament like this. Next, knockout stage chances. What was once a 40-year-long shot is now rated as excellent by soccer analysts. And finally, global status. Canada has instantly elevated from international underdogs to the biggest story in soccer.
By flawlessly executing this playbook, they've effectively erased past misses and drastically improved their overall outlook. So, bringing all these steps together, here is the core takeaway. Canada has demonstrated that it absolutely belongs on the world stage, and it can compete against international opponents with real confidence. This wasn't just a single victory. This was a pivotal, redefining moment in the country's soccer history. They proved that with the right playbook, dominating the pitch, staying united and human through adversity, and capitalizing on momentum, you can completely rewrite your own history.
Finally, what happens next? The world is watching.
Because once you make history, the expectations permanently change, right? All eyes are now firmly fixed on this Canadian squad. The element of surprise is entirely gone. So can Canada continue this momentum and make a deep run in the tournament? Or was this simply one unforgettable night? Will this step-by-step playbook carry them further into the World Cup, or have we seen their peak? I really want to know what you think. Let us know your predictions in the comments. If you enjoyed this explainer and found the breakdown helpful, don't forget